many of the people that have come for many years have come around and have come to help. They're getting older, even some of our regular, so who come to church or come to help. Even the family was cuts the grass, Jim. I don't know if you ever met Jim. I met Jim. Jim is getting older. His daughter is kind of, helping, coming in. So, but anyway, this is beautiful to see. So thank you. Thank you, all of you, for the work you do. It's a great help. It is a great help, and as I said it before, there's so many more people who benefit and enjoy really the work of your hands. So it's not it's not just for us, not just for a small group of nuns who live here, but it's for so many other people who come. Besides that, it's for the glory of God, which is the most important thing. So I had two ideas to share with you this time. Father Roman told us a story about a man that he knew. It was right before communism was taking over in Romania, and of course in Europe, the movement was there. So at that time, already a lot of negative propaganda had started about the church, monks and nuns, monasteries, whatever. And there's this young man who was a journalist, very well-to-do, highly educated. He was young, he was a reporter, that thought he's going to really write a very sensational story about the monks on Mount Athos. So he was taking a trip to Mount Athos. He couldn't believe it, that what pilgrims would say about the monasteries, the life in the monastery, the life of the monks, that is real. So they exaggerated where they don't know the real life. So he's going to go and find out. So, dressed like a tourist with his camera on his shoulder, he gets to Mount Athos and to start his pilgrimage. He meets an elderly man, a real pilgrim, and a man who was helping around the monasteries also. So he knew all the monastery, he knew some of the elders and all of that. So I told him this is what he wants to, visit, and said, well, so the real pilgrim said, if you want to really see how the monks live, what their life is, you need to do what I do. I'll take you along if you want to come with me. So he agreed. Says, what do I have to do? Says, put on long pants, long sleeves, let your beard grow, and do what I do. All right? It's a deal. So they started out. So they go at each monastery, he knocks on the door, make prostration, says, through the prayers of our Holy Fathers. This is how the monk inside knew it was a pilgrim, somebody who knew how to greet and how to ask for. So he does that. So they go in, venerate in church. So the elderly man, he goes in full prostrations at every icon. He takes blessings from the elder. Okay, the other young man does the same thing. They go along, they meet elders, they get the services, they wakes him up at night to go for services. He gets up at night, 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, whatever, And so they move along. And it was the day before he had to leave. He did get up for services, was at night. And he went to church, and then he stepped out of the church and sitting on a rock. And one of the monks that got to know him, that he had talked to him, comes after him and asks him, what's the matter? He said, why should I go? Or where should I go? Why would I go to that world that I know, that where I come from? Makes no sense. So a transformation has taken place in his heart. A total transformation. So they talked for a little bit. So he says, well, what would you have done if you were, out at this time of the night? So he said, I would be sleeping, or I would be at the nightclub, So he's, all of a sudden, this man was taken by this reality of the world, of the presence of God, of the life of the monks, all at once, his own state of mind and soul. So the rest of his story is this. He did go back. He sold his airplane and his business. He became a monk. He started the Hesychast movement in Romania, well known as the Burning Bush. He was put in prison. Of course, communists took over. He was put in prison, and he died in prison, in communist prison. That's Sandu Tudor. You must have heard of him. Yeah. So that's the story. So it is a little bit of what really happens at the monastery. And what happens to those who live in the monastery is just like one prostration at a time, one night at a time, one vigil at a time, that the change takes place. And it is that quiet time of the night that is very powerful. I think is very, the prayer really takes a different dimension. The awareness of God's presence, of oneself, and of the world is very profound. But it is only in that stillness, that quietness, that one really, experiences something of that sort. So I guess this is why Christ has encouraged us to retreat every so often. Be still and know that I am God. So it is in stillness and in quiet that we, it's a matter of encouraging everyone to try to experience a little bit of quiet time. But one important message in this is that it's an awareness of how well connected we are, monks and nuns, those who live in the monastery, with the rest of the world. It's at those moments of quiet and stillness, and when the whole world is quiet, that we become so much aware of the world. With us is very much the ones that people ask for prayers. People that we know, people that we meet, you included. That we become aware of the needs, of the sorrows, of the pain, of the illnesses, of the joys, everything. It becomes very powerful and very present. Why I'm bringing this up is one thing is we don't really know maybe where and how God works, but I was taking a walk to the ponds one morning before the sun was really on top of the water. The sun was up, but because of the trees all around it, so I couldn't really see the fish. But what I saw the movement under the water. The ripples. So I knew the fish was swimming under the water, forming these ripples, bigger and smaller. And what it came to me was this is how the prayer of the saints is, probably. We don't really see it, but we see the effect of that movement, of that prayer. Maybe we know the effect of the prayer. We don't see, we don't have that, presence of them. We're not always so alert, so aware that they are present. We know they're present. We know God is present, but we are not always so aware. But we have the benefit, of the prayers of the saints, of their presence among us, that we are not really aware. This is what it reminded me when I saw just the ripples. I couldn't see the fish, but I could see the ripples on top of the water. This is what it reminded me of. So that's that, which is very important, that we remain aware of the presence of God, and the presence of the saints, and the benefit, of their, because we always call them intercessors. The Mother of God, number one, apostles and martyrs, and down the line, all the saints, that they intercede for us. Now, this is, I think, is much more important nowadays, and for our young children, to be aware of this. We see this education that has been, coming on for a number of years now, but I think we see the effect of this education more and more nowadays, of me first, self-centeredness. What about me? It's all about me. This type of education, I think this has created a culture that, and this is really, I think it's death. Because once we're just centered on ourselves, we die by ourselves. Right? But the life is connected to the others. We only exist in connection with the others. Right? And our example is the Holy Trinity, right? It's a community, communion. Okay, it's a sharing, and this is what love is, and this is what life is. And that's only then. The Holy Fathers say that we are persons only as much as we love, basically. We only exist as much as we give of ourselves. If we don't, we die, we don't exist. We really don't exist. Oh yeah, maybe we have biological life, but not the life of a person, of the being, of real existence. And I say this because I think of what we hear so much of the pain and the sufferings and the depression, the anxiety, and all of this that we hear that so many young people have nowadays. There's, I don't know how much you're aware, but I hear it all the time. And it's just, why would a child be anxious? Why a teenager would be depressed? Terrible depression. They end up in the hospitals, they're on medication. Why? One basic, I think, reason for it is that they're taught that it's all about me and what I want, and I can have what I want, and all this type of thing, and they don't know that to share, the respect, the love, share, offer yourself, give. In connection, being aware that we're not by ourselves, being aware of God's presence, being aware, what does it mean, live? But maybe because the family is not there, the love of the parents is not there, the siblings, whatever, something is missing, and these children suffer. So we hear so much, 17 years old, severe depression, 19-year-old, severe depression. Actually, the one story I just heard from summer camp, from the medical doctor who was asked to be the nurse for the camp, says, I was totally unprepared, she said. The organizer did not really prepare her either. I'm not sure if they were prepared, but she said she had 4 teens with problems, anxiety and depression. One of them was really bad during camp. One of them forgot to take his medication. But this young man, 19 years old, very handsome, bright, parents are professionals. He was very popular in school. Said, had to sit with him all night. He said, you don't understand. It's so painful. it's empty inside and it's so painful. So it makes me really cringe when I hear of that. Why? The question is why. It's a mystery, but nevertheless, we need to do something about it. So make sure that you and those around you and your children, I see the little ones, they're so happy. They're loved, I can see. I said to the two boys, they're skipping on the stones, and I said, you need to get off the stones, it's time for church. They jumped off, they ran directly to church by themselves. It was Damien and Luke. They went and venerated the icons. They went straight, venerated the icons, they took their seats. That's all. I was really amazed. So I said, you see, glory to God. It can be done. It can be done because somebody is teaching them that it is so important, this type of. So for any of us, and when we experience, the times of, sadness, whatever, we need to know that it cannot be, it's not, I am not the center of the world. Yes. So giving, offering, being out, and I was very happy to see that we had the children brought them and they were out here running in the grass and the woods and the ponds and finding frogs and insects and whatever. Which brings me to the other idea that I would like to share with you, how important that is. And I think if the monastery brings the message to the world nowadays, that's the other one is that I think life in a monastery is as close as it can be to the life that God has intended for us to be on earth. I was saying to another group just last week, I said, I can't imagine paradise with everybody sitting in front of a computer screen, But I can imagine paradise because it is in the scripture and in the writings of the fathers that we hear that it is a place of green pastures and flowers and birds and running water and beauty of that sort. God has created the world, that's yes, called Adam to name all the animals, and man is the master of creation, and everything serves the human being, the man, everything that God has created. So if this is a serious, I think, and we've been contemplating on it a little bit, this is a serious matter. God has created everything for us, and if we believe, then God has created everything for our joy, for our entertainment, for our delight, for our sustenance, for our healing, right? Everything that we need, God has created and He gave it to us. Here, it's all yours. And we don't pay any attention. We destroy it, we abuse it. We don't even know what God has created because we create our own things. We create our own God. We think it's better. We create more beautiful things because what God has created is not beautiful enough. Or, that's the type of attitude that man has, even concerning God's creation, the environment, what is around us. But if we pay a little bit more attention, to me, the gospel really comes alive. Really, much easier to understand. Because Christ always gave us examples of the fields, of the seed, of the soil, of the sower, of the trees, of the birds, of the flowers, which, we watch the birds around here. It's free entertainment. Such a variety. And then, of course, in the Gospel of St. Matthew, I think it's chapter 25, where it says, do not worry, okay, what you shall eat, what you shall put on, and it gives us the example of the birds of the air, and then of the lily of the fields. The Holy Fathers interpret that God gives the example of the birds because they're so small and significant, of a creature, so fragile and insignificant and so small. So if God takes care of those little things, how would he not care for man? That is the crown of his creation. And then the lily of the fields also. Again, it's just a flower out there in the fields that blooms one day and the flower closes up by the evening and it's gone. Some flowers last longer, but the lily, usually the day lilies, which most of the wild lilies are, they flower one day and that's all. By evening they close up. But I was thinking of that. So the birds, what do the birds teach us really? I think the birds teach us a lot. They're very industrious. They really work hard. They're free. Okay, they're very disciplined. They wake up early in the morning and sing their praise. So we're trying to compete with the birds. Get up a little bit earlier. Their song during the day is different. Their song in the evening is different. So their morning and evening song is different than the little chirping, whatever they do during the day. How they make their nests. Have you noticed how many different kinds of nests? Each bird makes a different nest, basically. Have you seen how quickly they make their nests? How disciplined, how fast they make their nests? Did you ever watch how intricate their nests are? It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And all of that, of course, they fly away and they sing away and they're free. They're carefree. They don't worry about anything. They do their work. So, okay. Work hard, be disciplined, praise God, and don't worry what you're going to eat. God provides. God provides in so many ways. But you really have to trust God. Not just intellectually, we know we have to trust God. Really trust God. And when you really trust God in the everyday needs, because hunger is ferocious. Okay, none of us here really have suffered hunger, that we really didn't know if we're going to have something to eat. It's just a matter of the time you get home or get to the restaurant or your favorite restaurant, not just any restaurant or so, to have lunch or dinner or breakfast. We pick our own what we want, so we're not even there, so we don't really know what hunger is. But hunger can be very ferocious, very painful. Especially, I have seen people who didn't really have anything to eat. They're really relying from morning to evening to this. That's all if they could gather by a little work or by somebody's mercy that they got something to eat, and that's all they had. They really had no supplies, no means. I have seen a few people like that. It always very impressed me very much. Just to see that such a thing exists. So, but to really trust God, in a situation like that, to really trust God, that's when you really experience freedom. You really abandon oneself in God's hands for everything. I would say that's because I don't think we would survive as monks and nuns without that type of trust in God. Just because we don't have jobs and we don't, not always, we work with our hands and we try to provide and whatever, but it's not anything sure. Somebody comes and brings their gifts, their offerings, but we don't know who's going to come or what they're going to bring. It's totally up to God, really. And as a result, you see it yourself and you have experienced yourself that God has taken care of. And I think once you experience just maybe one or two situations like that, don't worry, God will provide, then you're free. Then you're really free. And we have to be. We should not ever doubt. Once God has shown how He takes care of us, we have no good reason ever to doubt. So that's the message I get from watching the birds. Really. And then with the lily of the fields, sure, connecting that to the monastic garb again, it's We do that of our own free will, that don't care that much about it. But I was thinking of, lily is a beautiful flower, and it's a big flower. And I see all sorts of plants, little flowers, dainty little ones, whatever. But the lily is really a big flower if you really look at it. And it doesn't matter that it only shows off one day. It does its best one day. It opens full bloom one day. And this is what it matters. So it tells me this is what I need to focus on today. Do I open up as a beautiful bloom every day? So the present really matters. What we do, how we shine, how beautiful we are before God and before people, also, of course, our soul, and our actions, our behavior, whatever it is, every day. So, and again, that's one of the fundamental teachings of our faith. If you have faith in God, is that we live in the present, that we focus on the present. And that's all we have. The gift that we have is this present moment that we have. And that, again, we should feel a lot freer because that's all we have to worry about. If we are to worry, it's be concerned at the moment that we do our best every moment and every day. Now, of course, the past we can't change it, right? And we learn from the past, hopefully, desirably, that we learn from our past experiences. And then the future, we know it's not ours. Therefore the saying that, man proposes, God disposes, because, we can have big plans. It's beautiful. If God so wills, and if we live. That's a saying amongst the monastics, that we're going to do this or that or the other, tomorrow, the next week, next season, next year, whenever, it doesn't matter, if it's God's will and if we live until then. So I think this is not something that only, a few people that think that way or plan that way, but I think it's something that we all should be aware of. Remain aware, each one of us in our, our innermost part of our life, of our heart, is to remain aware of that, no matter how young or how old, because that's the truth. Plan, if God wills, and if we are alive, we'll do this and that. In this sense, I think it's the Holy Fathers that encourage us to remain, aware, or have the remembrance of death before us. It's a matter of being aware that we don't have control of the future, basically. It's not a matter of, I'm going to die. No, on the contrary. There isn't anything like that in Christ's teaching that to make us really being so sorrowful and depressed and, downcast or anything like that. On the contrary, Father Roman always used to say that one characteristic of a Christian is joy. A good Christian is a joyful person because we trust in God. We look for towards the future. We look towards being united with God in paradise. So we're joyful. We're optimistic. So that's the attitude of a Christian. So in that sense, we're aware that our life can be cut short any time, which means it makes us really diligent, makes us really live in the present, desirous to do your best to accomplish something today. Be good, do something good, make somebody smile, offer something. We always can think it could be the last moment that I see anyone around us, the family, everything. So you want to be at your best. You want to, that's the attitude. Not to that, what if? No. And the other thing is, yes, a good Christian realizes that this life on earth is only, temporary. Then we build those relationships that last into eternity. So as the end of any of us life here on earth comes to an end, it's only, to pass on, that we will be united again. So it's in that hope. So hope is something that we hope for. It's not here, it's beyond. So again, like St. Paul says, we weep, we're sad, but not without hope. So remaining aware, of the reality of this life and the life to come, really, I think it gives us that type of attitude, being enthusiastic, optimistic, joyful, focused, with the desire to really accomplish something, offer ourselves, in that sense. And then, yes, I think we'll be a little bit less stressed about, the things of the everyday life. Oh, it doesn't mean that it's not without, some difficulties. But even, how do Christians, deal with difficulties? A different way than, I would think, those who have no faith. It should be different than those who have no faith, who don't know God. But those of us who do know God, I think we can overcome, difficulties in a different way. Again, it's with that hope in God and faith that makes us a lot stronger. And we can see why, God given, wisdom that we understand. We're not by ourselves. There's so many, things around us and so many other people around us, and we're all together. So encouraging others, doing well and doing what is right, and encouraging others to do the same, try to make a difference, all make a difference. Yes. Be a good witness. So that's what I had on my mind these days, and I just wanted to share with you a little bit of that. Mm-hmm.
We always look forward to this evening.
Yes.
Hearing from you, Father John. So thank you again. Anybody have any questions, or would you like to ask Mother Gabriela?
On the way here, Matthew was asking why or how you moved to Michigan. And we said, well, we don't know, So could you tell us that scenario?
A little bit. I always like to look back, how things have happened and what, and then this is how God works in our lives when we want to do God's will. So let me put it this way. First of all, if our desire before God is sincere, genuine, sincere, God will guide us. The way He will guide us may be different from what we may plan or think it could be. It's fine. So, but it was this, I would say, a number of people in this area, in Michigan, that really expressed the desire to have a monastery. Somewhere closer to Detroit, farther from Detroit, somewhere between Detroit and Chicago, basically. So this is how it really started, with an interest and a desire from a number of families, Orthodox families, that says, oh, how nice it would be to have a monastery closer, in the Midwest, somewhere closer to us. And this is how it was the time for the nuns to move and look for a place. So it basically started from the eastern part, east of Detroit, and then kind of slowly moved west. And this is where we came. We didn't know either, where that's going to be. And then many people did ask that question, why did you settle in Rave's Junction? I said, I really don't know, because I think God has chosen this piece of land long before I was born, or any of us here in this room for that matter, that He chose this place. That was my conclusion after everything and after looking and whatever, searching, and then that's my only answer to that would be God has chosen this piece of land to be a monastery long before any of us, are aware of the way it happened and the way everything else has happened after that.
It is
So,
something, isn't it?
yes, it is.
Over a journey that long, that things come, people come at the right time, certain things happen. It's how you don't know why, but God works.
Yes, you don't have really an
Because
explanation.
You have retrospect, and you can see it.
Yes.
Because you can look back.
That's
I
them.
could see it at St Herman's. I could see and visualize all the people that came at the right times in the different places, and then all of a sudden something comes up, and this person or persons at the right time, the right place. But everybody somehow stepped up to the bat, wherever they were at that time. And I call it a miracle. It's like you say, it is God's will. And all you have to do is be there to see and visualize.
You're talking my experience, our experience, exactly the same. But how we have seen it along the way, all these years, exactly the right person for the right thing, the need, whatever the need was, whatever. If we really look back, yes, you can write a whole book. But yes, looking in retrospect, you can really see God's work. It's the most marvelous thing that you can, I think it's just understanding, seeing, but having the eyes and the will, the desire to see how God works. That's why it's amazing.
But it shapes you too, doesn't it?
I hope it does.
I always if they say about sin, I would say we wandered in the desert for 30 years before
Yes.
we find it out. And you still have to, but...
Yes. It is in the desert that we get our identity, right? And that's where we know God, that we experience the presence of God. It's that desert, which means, the effort, the ascetical effort, our desire for God, that it has to be a desert. All of us have to experience, type of desert, which is the work that we do, actually, for everybody. It's the effort that we make into, knowing God. It's basically knowing God. That's what shapes and changes us in our experience in God, is that we want to know God. It's within us, in whatever we do. And we do that in so many ways. Okay? Sometimes we're more active and, in a physical way, whatever we do, encountering people, moments of prayer, the liturgical life of the church, the retreats, the pilgrimages we take, everything all together is our work, our journey, to get our identity. And our identity is, as we experience God, this is how we get our identity. We said, yes, we're transformed, we're transfigured, we're shaped, we're changed. And that's what it is. Mm-hmm. So I totally agree with you. This is how God works, and if we see it,
it's an experience, for sure.
It's
a lot of them. Some people, and I hope everybody picks it up the same way when they go into the church.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an instant process. And
Yes.
It's like you say, growing in Christ,
It's
that image.
And it takes many years. It takes, things happen, extraordinary things happen from one moment to the other. And then things, they take a long time to really shape or change or to see something. It doesn't really matter. It's God's time. And is that as you saying, I agree, and I hope that everyone here is younger ones, or is something for you to look forward to really, as we live, then we experience God. Knowledge of God, it really comes with our life experience. We can read many books. That's a different type of knowledge. It's a acquisition of information, right? It's head knowledge. It's it's theory. It's something, but the real knowledge of God is really the experience as we live.
I have a question, because you mentioned something like that. In life, or in our church life, as well as taking it out into the world, living it, how does choice, God gives us choice, and because I think there's many paths. I mean, God knows everything. He knows it end to start, whatever. But there's that choice that every person makes at different times, different choices. And I always wondered how that played into it. Everyone tries to stay in the presence of God when they're doing it, but we don't know totally God, what's planned. Like you were saying, you plan one thing, and when you actually think of it, it turns out a little different, or your plan doesn't happen. But choice, maybe the freedom of that choice that people make throughout life.
Yeah, I would say it's not. I would say it's the freedom that God has, the free will that God has given us. Okay, that we make choices. So it has to be with that, very, very conscious of the fact that yes, we have a free will by God, and that's God's love for us. That's why He made us free and given us. But it just it reminded me of Father Thomas Hopko when he says, "When you choose Christ, you have no freedom."
You're a slave to Christ. That's good.
Why? Well, why he says that? Because we only have that choice, following Christ, and Christ has taught us how to live and what kind of choices we make. We have all the freedom, but then if you choose Christ, it's like you have no freedom. In the sense, yes, that's what you have already made your choice of your own free will. This is why it has to be, choosing God. It has to be a free will that we want to. You see, you can't drag somebody to church. You can't really force somebody to believe in God. You can't force anyone to trust God. It has to be a free will and choice. So, but when you do, then you have a clear direction. That's how I travel. So really, you can't say, today I choose this and tomorrow I choose that. It has to be that way.
Choose life.
So, which is choosing Christ. Yeah. Yes, and that's a life in Christ. Then, of course, God has given us, if we act rightly, according to God's will, we have a conscience, which it tells us right and wrong. We know we have that gut feeling that's not a good choice. We know that. We say it's my gut feeling is this. We know it's our conscience. It's the voice of God. It's our guardian angel. It tries to tell us that's wrong. Maybe you should do that thing. This is why the other thing is, yes, when we pray and we want to do God's will, then we act in faith and go that way. Don't doubt. We say, well, maybe should I, what if? You already allowed doubt to step in, and then it's harder to make the right decision. Yeah, it's and again, in our society nowadays, there's so many choices. Young people have a hard time in making a decision or knowing, let's say, what is God's will, because you can do anything, you can do everything, you can have everything, you can whatever. This is what the culture, this is what they hear. So it's like, what if maybe should I do this, should I do that, should I choose this, should I choose that? What if? So it makes it very hard to make a decision, because there's like too many things to choose from. You have to eliminate, and you have to trust God, and you pray, and then what happens is God's will. Then you need courage to act that way. Just go. But that entails really that you trust God and you act in faith. Yes. But that's where the devil intervenes and says, "But what if?" And then you don't make a good choice. So, but that's the answer to that.
And how about I always say, when the choice is made, God just makes a plan around.
Yes.
His plan.
If we choose to follow Him, then He takes us by the hand and takes us where we should go.
Do you have a relationship with your guardian angel?
I hope I do, but I know I forget about my guardian angel so much. I feel so embarrassed. Here's a public confession. When I was a child, though, I was very much aware. When I was young and when I was a child, and it's younger and a child, I was very much aware of my guardian angel. And you know, that's why I find it so important that children know that they have a guardian angel, that, you know, God is present, that the Mother of God is our mother, is everyone's mother. And so you tell Demi when he goes to school, Demi, I can't be there, but, you know, the Mother of God is there. I can't come with you, with you to the school, but the Mother of God is there. If you want it, if you need anything, it says you just ask her to be present. Because as children, we need security and safety. So I was better as a child at being aware of my guardian angel than older. You see, you form bad habits when you're old also, not just when you're young. But yes, once in a while, do remember.
Do you have to be baptized in order to have a guardian angel?
Actually, I think Father may know better of us, because I heard different, a little bit different opinions. That a guardian angel, an angel is assigned to every person that comes into the world. Yes. Okay. Now, by being baptized and chrismated, it kind of cements that it becomes our guardian angel, because, you know, we're brought into the church with the prayer and the blessing and ask for it. So it's cemented. But it seems like, yes, there's an angel for every person that is brought into the world by God. You know, baptized or unbaptized. Being baptized, as I said, it becomes our guardian angel, and we know and we are aware. Yes, but I heard that other people were not baptized or chrismated that had a sense or an experience, because, you know, St. Paul talks about the people who, you know, the pagans or those who do not know God, if they act according to God's will, to God's law. Not of those people who have not known God, nobody taught them, you know, for whatever reason, you know. And there are people, I believe there are people that are not really, Christ is not brought to them or not taught. But God reveals himself to everyone the way he knows. And with that respect, then people do become aware. Those who are sincere and looking for God, because the notion of God is within us. The breath of God is in every human being. So for those who sincerely look for God, I think God reveals himself to them the way he knows.
We have a number of people here at St Herman's who have found the Orthodox faith. They came to St Herman's. Some from atheistic backgrounds, some from all kinds of different backgrounds, and their journeys, some of them were quite circuitous. It was quite tortuous, and at some points they were maybe believers, but they were mad at God. And it's fascinating to hear the story of converts, and some of them it took them years, but it seems what's common to them all is that even when they may have been denying God and professing that they did not believe in God, something in here was not listening.
Yeah, it was actually.
But God was listening to what was in there.
They were actually looking for God.
Yes. So I'm wondering. I think that might be an example of a guardian angel shepherding them, nipping at their heels.
Yes. But there's a beautiful canon to the guardian angel in the prayer book, so it's good, to pray to the guardian angel. In the canon, it says that how we sadden, the guardian angel when we make poor choices and decisions, away from God. The guardian angel is sad. So it says it departs. It just stands, but doesn't, because we have free will. God respects the free will that he has given us. That's one of the things that kind of blows my mind. To know that God respects our will, does not interfere. Yes, he guides, he's there, makes himself, but he will not impose, because he has given us free will. And this is why the guardian angel is kind of sad, stands there, is there, but does not act. But it is our angel that brings the message. It says it's the connection between us and God is our guardian angel. Because angel means messenger. So it's the messages that we receive from God is our guardian angel that keeps that connection this way. It's so important that we do have a relationship and we're aware of the guardian angel. That means we're aware of the message that the guardian angel brings from God and takes our message back to God. Mm-hmm.
And what about our relationship with our patron saint?
Again, yes.
Or then even how do we strengthen? I think I've heard that it's similar to having a relationship with a person. You just simply talk to them, but with a person you can see them. Patron saint they're invisible, and his guardian angels are invisible. So.
This is why we kind of lost track or forget, because they're not right in front of us. This is why we need to practice that type of discipline of awareness, of vigilance of mind, that we don't allow ourselves, our thoughts to be scattered everywhere and not focused. Okay? So this is called a spiritual discipline. It's called an interior discipline, personal discipline, that this is why we want to have kind of a prayer rule, a discipline during the day, so we remember different moments of the day that we remember, take a moment and become more aware or fully aware of God's presence, of our guardian angel, of our patron saint, and everything else in that sense. So it's a matter of exercise, it's a matter of discipline, that we become aware. And more times and every day, not just once in a while, whenever, however, okay, that is who we are and how we live. That's exactly what it means. Okay, to have a prayer rule or to have the vigilance of mind, all of that.
Okay, and then, but it's not like some sort of mind thing where you're trying to project your mind out somewhere. How would you remember your guardian angel, your patron saint? You just simply stop and say, "Oh Lord, remember."
Yes, yes, it can be that. If you take a moment and do prayers in the morning, evening, or noon, whatever, a few minutes, then you pray to your patron saint and to guardian angel also those moments. And throughout the day, you try to remember as you work, as you do, as you drive, as things like that, as you do manual work, as you do whatever you do, the household routine, whatever that you don't have to, your mind doesn't have to be so concentrated, so focused on what you do, then you can remember again. And be mindful of the presence of the angels, of the saint of the day, of God's presence, of Jesus' prayer. You can go, that's why we say a prayer rule and a routine, because a discipline, you can form your own. It becomes natural to you.
What would be a safeguard to prevent that from becoming a form of idolatry? Like you form a picture in your head, okay, well this is, or you invent a presence in your head.
It's not a matter of forming some type of picture, although we do become aware of of the icons or so, where you may, if you remember you become aware of your patron saint, the icon, the presence of the icon, or what the saint looks like in the icon might come to your mind, but that's not your focal point. It's a matter of an awareness of a presence. Not necessarily don't form images or try to. But if we need to, this is why we have icons. It kind of catches our attention, our focus. They look at the icons to help us focus and connect. But of course, I don't even know exactly if I understand what it means to really have that image, that form, that shape or image or something as an idol. We don't go that far, because you don't worship, that image, that painting, or whatever, that.
I suppose I'm imagining that my ego, that maybe I'm praying to something that I think is an awareness, but in fact it's actually just my ego. And so I'm not actually praying perhaps to a patron saint Or I don't know, maybe not. I don't know.
You can ask your patron saint to teach you how to pray. When we don't know, sometimes there's so many times, and even after years of some practice or so, and then there are some times of confusion, whatever we go through. It's okay. We can always ask first of all, ask the Holy Spirit to teach us how to pray. Ask your patron saint, how do I pray? How do I properly pray? Just, yes, you can have a conversation that way. Help me understand. But it's okay. As long as you do it in humility and sincerity of heart, you're safe.
Well, so there's the hard part.
But it be each one of us, we know the disposition of our heart and the state of our heart. Is it puffed up? Is it, do we feel, proud of our accomplishments or our relationship with God or whatever? Or do I put me first? Or, that's something very deep that we can cover very well, but God knows. Just know that God knows our heart. And God knows the disposition of our heart. We cannot hide anything from Him. That's for sure. Yes. And that would be to really help us be sincere and be who we are, because we cannot hide from God. Okay? We may hide from people, but we cannot hide from God. We can, cover up, and what it really matters is, as I said, it's our sincerity before God, not, know how well we present ourselves to the people around us. Although that would be helpful if we are respectful and kind to the people around us. But so I said, become aware that God knows our hearts. We can ask the saints to help us, teach us how to pray, how to keep a humble mind and humble heart. And as you were saying before, that you want to learn patience, which is a virtue.
Oh, I don't want to do it. It's just God's trying to teach it to me. I just can't seem to learn.
Are you Father's son?
You try to learn humility from your papa?
That's why he's so bad at
I always wondered why your sons and daughters are at your feet, listening to you.
Give it to him, Dad.
Well, I know I do on Sunday mornings, and wow. I just thank God. We got the fathers of the church. Sometimes I think you speak like this, and with this, and you hear it. Wonderful.
Yes. Don't you get scared when you hear in your sons? You hear yourself in your son?
Oh, is that what we were doing?
She's
So,
one thing.
I'm not sure if it's a one or a two.
Okay, here we go.
We'll decide.
Well, it's kind of a silly question, but maybe you can, maybe you can expound on it a little bit. But so when we come here to the monastery, I always feel like it's the closest we can kind of experience to being in a church service and feeling like I don't have anything else to do. I'm just here and I'm just doing this. It's not like, okay, what are we going to make for dinner tonight? Okay, we got to make sure that, Olympia does this, and her dress is dirty, so we got to make sure I put that
Yeah. Yes.
So I kind of feel that I'm like, well, we could hurry up and finish the Vespers, but this is what we're here for. There's nothing else to do. So I was just curious today. I was thinking, I wonder if the nuns feel like that all the time too, or if they have their duties around where they're thinking like, Sister Alicia's like, oh, I got to get to my kale, and I got to pick this, and I can't forget to trim those things tonight. I wanted to get that done. And so if that's something that they do you also struggle with mindfulness? And if so, I guess whatever you want to say about that.
That's wonderful. I'm glad you mentioned that, and that's really wonderful to know that, and that's really what we are grateful if when you do come, that you're just here, and that's really very important. Even the children. Your girl said, "Oh, you said it's bittersweet," and she said, "Why?" And then you said, because it's coming to an end, and I have to go. And she says, "Yeah, it is nice to be here. It's just quiet and it's beautiful. You're just here." Even a child said that. But so it is very important that an experience like this, you can be just present, and that will change you from the inside. You become aware or not, but in time you'll see those glimpses, just those once a year, twice a year, once in a while, that you do experience that really changes us. Yes, to really answer your question, we can struggle with. There are days when we know going to church means leaving everything aside, living, outside the door, we're there. And there are moments and there are days when we can be caught up into have to do this and have to do that. Absolutely. That is how the devil tempts us. Right? If he can distract us, we'll try to distract us in so many ways. In ways, that you never really thought that could be. So yes, I would say yes, monastics do struggle with that, and we succeed when we succeed, and sometimes we fall and we fail, and we go to confession, and we try harder. There will be moments halfway through the service that something will come to say, "Oh, maybe I should leave and do that," and this is why he says the rule is don't. But there are times being practical, yes, that one has to leave, but it's not of my own just because the devil distracted me. And
when your kid is screaming, for example.
Sure.
She's yelling.
Yes, it's true. Okay, we have chickens, so the two nuns take turns in taking care of the chickens. So there's a time in the morning service or in the evening service, sometimes we have vigil, that whoever has that responsibility that day, when we have a long vigil in the evening, it has to step out at a certain moment to close the chickens. Otherwise, we won't have any by morning. Wild animals can get into there. So, have to do that. But that's obedience. That's part of the prayer, of the life of obedience. So that's different. Yes, we do. The nuns was in charge of the cook of the day. Needs to step out maybe a certain time during a vigil, or during Vespers at the end, or step out a little bit earlier, to turn the oven on or off. But again, that's obedience, that's prayer, that goes with it. You step out, it's kind of the routine, it's fine. So that's one aspect of it. But the other one is, we can be distracted anytime. And especially, as you said, that. But this is why it becomes a discipline. When this is the time for prayer and this is the time for work, and when the bell rings, you do this, and when the bell rings, you do that. It helps us get into that rhythm and forget about everything. We're going to church. Yes. When things get done get done, but
and doesn't.
Yes, exactly. So yes, anyone can be tempted and that, but we try. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a very valid question. Absolutely.
I have something just to kind of piggyback off of that, thinking of loving the rhythm of it here, and even for a couple of days, I think we've all sort of really entered in, and then we've had this shared experience here, and I think we all kind of feel that too, going through like Holy Week and Pascha and that sort of thing as a community, and I'm just thinking of like maybe some advice of how to have a softer landing as we go back to our home lives. And I have half of my family that didn't come, and knowing that they haven't had this experience, and like I feel like I want to continue that, but I know that they may not share the feeling that I have of wanting to throw out the TV or something like, that sort of thing.
you try to share a little bit. Yes, I think it's our duty, probably a beautiful experience, to share with the others. So hopefully they will notice that you come home joyful and more rested or more focused. But if they don't, you'd like to share a little bit. How was it? Right? They'll say, oh, we're glad you're home or whatever. How was it? And then you can share a little bit of that. People tell us that they have learned, as they learn of certain routine or rhythm, they try to implement some in the family. So it helps them because, as you said, this is an experience that you take with you. And you remember it. You don't want to lose it, but you lose some of it. Hopefully you don't lose all of it. You may lose some of it because you go back to, a different, rhythm and schedule of, responsibilities so that it can. But hopefully it would have changed just a little bit and you can do better. The devil will attack and for a moment, it can, all seems like it's lost. Not necessarily, maybe just for the moment. But however your routine, your schedule is at home, if there's anything that you think that and this experience can help into improving, okay, something that will remind you as a family or at home of the rhythm of the monastery, so you can become a little bit more aware of it. So, even if you just say one prayer, or just remember it's 5 o'clock, the nuns do Vespers, for example. Many people tell us that. They become aware of the hours of prayer, and kind of calm comes over them. They connect. That's why I said we connect in prayer. We connect with you people out there. I become very much aware of everybody. Remembering those hours, what the nuns, monks do in the monastery at certain times, because you have experienced that, kind of connects you to that. And all of a sudden you could see there may be a prayer. You raise a prayer immediately. Lord, have mercy. Lord, hear my prayer. Lord, watch over me. It changes. It's a life-changing. This is how we change. This is how we pray, really. And just becoming aware of those, what's going on, what our brothers and sisters are doing, and at different moments that becomes, part of our life. As it says, somehow, if you need to, we have. Usually people have a little bit something that you buy from the monastery or were given or something, and you have it, in your icon corner or somewhere. That's a reminder also. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm thinking of the the second story you told us at the beginning. The fishes swimming in the pond as an example of the saints interceding for us, and as a result having an impact on us. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe we're participating a bit in the saints' lives.
Yes.
So maybe we can become little fishes.
Maybe we can swim under the water. Yes, absolutely. I think we have to.
So instead of trying to change the rest of the family, I'll just be the little fish myself. And I will have an effect just by...
Yes, yes. That's why I said, if they notice a change, whatever you share, and then, if it changes us, then, it's the ripple effect, right? Yes. Hopefully, God willing, with God's grace. Yeah. It's wonderful. Good, thank you.
Thank you, Mother, very much. Yes, as you can tell, we always, this is really a highlight of our parish life, next to Pascha, and I'm very proud of that. Our highlight is not some barbecue festival.
Amen.
Our highlight is the pilgrimage to the monastery.
It's not the chili cook-off.
Not the chili cook-off.
The close second. But yes.
And it has had an impact on the parish. life. So we know that you're praying for us, and we very much appreciate that. So you know that we are praying for you as well.
Thank you. I do believe once we experience some joy in Christ, in the faith, in God, in His care for us, then everything else kind of falls into place. Yes, we can enjoy chili and hot dogs, and we enjoyed pizza yesterday. We ate too much of it. It was exceptionally good. But it comes with, you take it as a blessing, you take it as a gift. Don't make that the priority or the focal, right? The focal point is we're going to have, pizza or ice cream. That comes with the joy, and you want to enjoy it. It's all together. God has given us those blessings. It's a matter of not, overturning the priorities or the focal point of our life. That's all. That's everybody knows that being Orthodox means good food also, and fellowship. Everybody does. Those people who are not Orthodox, they know about Orthodoxy. There's always, when there's a service, there's food and there's fellowship. God meant it that way, right? That's what we've been talking about. It's the fellowship, it's the togetherness, it's the sharing with one another of our joy and sorrows and experience and helping. All of that, that's what makes life beautiful. Yes. But it's a matter of putting God in the center. This is why we have the joy and the blessings and the fellowship and everything else. It's not the other way around. That's where we fail. That's when things go wrong. Yes.
Part of our love for God, our love for
Yes.
the union with God.
Yes.
That's why I come here, is because it's a labor of love.
Yes, it is.
But it's a labor of love for God's sake.
Yes, it is.
It's wonderful we can do it. We have the opportunity to do it.
Yes. But He chose to do it, which is,
Well, yeah.
I mean,
there's
all of
times-
you have chosen to do this. So it's just, God rewards everything that we do, and that's. So I'm glad, and it was a joy because I know you share in that joy with us, and we share in that joy with you, and that's the most important thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
You were saying earlier that, or the church says that depression is purely a spiritual problem, and I've read books about that. How would you answer that?
No, I don't think I didn't say. I don't think I said it's purely a spiritual condition. It can be, but it can be a chemical imbalance, and yes, absolutely. I think it can be an illness. Yes, also not just, but I mean it's a spiritual state of depression. Yes. Despondency, whatever, it's there. The Holy Fathers talk about it when it's a lack of faith, and it's being away from God and being self-centered, and it's different. But yes, there are many reasons and different levels of depression and conditions. But I do believe that there is such a thing as depression, as clinical depression, or whatever. It's a condition that it's a chemical imbalance in the brain and in the body, caused by whatever, we don't know, but yes, I think it can be. I was talking about more of a spiritual state, that there is that too. That darkness, that depression, that no hope, no sense, no meaning in life. Yes. But people who have the other type of depression, they can be quite aware of a lot of things in themselves, and it's just hard to cope with. They have their struggles, but they're very much aware.
All right, thank you, Mom.
Right.